What is going on, you guys? It's your boy, the Articulate Autist here, and we're back with episode 47, I think. I'm not autistic, and I'm not making fun of autistic people. I'm just making up a silly name. So if it bothers you, I am not sorry. Speaking of autistic people, I want to talk about. uh, so this got off to a terrible start. So sorry, the YouTube reviewer who got just plopped on his desk. Speaking of autistic people, there's this trope that is quite common, especially in kind of this age of media and media consumption of like this kind of this like genius, right? The genius guy, right? A lot of times they border on the level of autism. I'm speaking mostly about like these, like the tech geniuses, right? SBF, Zuckerberg, Musk, all these people, and I want to stress this conjecture of mine that I think is related to this. I think that a likable genius just doesn't exist, in the sense that if somebody has some amount of is charismatic, right? They're either not the genius that you think they are, or they or you wouldn't like them, right? They're kind of mutually exclusive ideas. So it's either you like the person, and they're dumber than you think, or they are really smart and you don't like them. So I think a better example, and I think if you look at somebody like I don't know, Musk or something, and you like, oh, that guy's awesome, he's hilarious, whatever. He's probably maybe technically not as smart as you think he is. And I think I have to put the social manipulation genius in a different category, because someone who is a genius, but only in the sense that they're able to influence people and swoon people into their ideas, more of like a sociopathic genius versus a technical genius. I'm speaking purely of technical geniuses here. So an example that would fit into this category, let's say Richard Stallman, for example. A lot of people don't like that guy, and reasonably so. He's like said some stuff which you're like, dude, what are you talking about? But here's the thing. He's actually really like technically as smart as you would think he is, right? Because, you know, he you know, I think he's that efficient level of autism where it's this, it's the autistic brilliance that comes to light in his technical knowledge. But like if someone like Elon Musk, for example, I think has a lot more of an ability to articulate what he's talking about. People like him because he's got, you know, some personality. Or I mean, I guess again, I'm kind of speaking in quotes here almost, because, you know, to some people it's really subjective there. But either way, like the fact that he has any likable part of him it tells me that he's not as technically literate as he might be. Now, someone who is, you know, people have called somebody like Donald Trump a genius or something, which again, maybe you could put him into that social genius or that sociopath genius character trope, which I think is different, right? I think that's part of their genius, is the fact that they're influential and they can, you know, convince anybody to do whatever and yada 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 yada. But I think if we're speaking about technical people, right? People who are you know, PhD, you know, or computer science people or something. If they're likable, like if you know, have any reverence towards them, they're probably not nearly as smart as you think they are, or you won't really like them, right? So I think someone like maybe like Sam Altman might be a good thing. The guy's like, you know, pretty. He's got some good character to him, right? And I think that this tells me that technically he's not nearly as brilliant as someone like Stallman might be, because he simply is doesn't have that level. Because people who are really, really brilliant on that end tend to truly have no sense of social ability to interact, right? They don't have any kind of social radar, and it allows them to, you know, say ridiculous things. It also is what allows them to, you know, create entire operating systems without getting bored or without selling out to the man. Like, I mean, these people have a level of dedication that is that is unfathomable to the common man. And that's precisely why they're able to do the technical things that they've done. So I think the idea of this likable and technical genius, no, doesn't exist. They're either a technical genius and you don't like them, or they're weird, or they make you uncomfortable, which is fine. That's part of it. Or if you like them, they're probably just not as smart as they are. They're more like some product manager who can, tell you what to do, or has, good management qualities or something, right? The kind of person who would work on Wall Street, whatever. So again, I'm not knocking either of them. Obviously, I'd have more reverence for someone who, pretends to know what they're talking about, or sounds like they know what they're talking about and does, versus someone who pretends and might just fool people to know what they're talking about. But anyway, yeah, that's a belief of mine. I don't think that I think the ability to be likable and the ability to be a technical genius are mutually exclusive. So you're either one or the other. Anyway, yeah, it's been a few days since I've made one of these. It's been pretty sporadic, especially just across the board. So my apologies for that. If you're really someone who waits on these, but I don't know why you would. It's would not be the kind of thing that I would sit around all day and wait for someone to post. But I'm gonna try to get in the habit of these. I think they offer a lot of value to me. Again, they kind of function as this therapy, quote unquote, if you'd like to call it that. I don't really think of it as therapy. I think therapy implies that I'm trying to amend some kind of issue, right? There's some problem, right? But the thing is, everyone's always going to have problems. It doesn't matter what stage of life you're at or what you're doing. Again, I said this last time, but the scale at which your problems are important or are your problems tell you most of what I need to know about you as a person, right? So if your problems are incredibly superfluous, beyond a reasonable doubt, I know that you have no real problems, right? You're doing just fine. And same with me. I don't really have any real problems. And the things I discuss about in these videos are just symptomatic of the fact that I have less to worry about than I like to admit. And sure, I'm sure that if somebody else were in my shoes, they'd be worrying about, I don't know, money or something, or their job, or whatever. I could manufacture stuff to be very, very worried about, and I could have a legitimate reasons to have this manufactured worry. But I simply don't want to exist that way. So I would rather not manufacture any worry at all, and even live in this blissful state that is not perturbed by a need to worry about something all the time, because there's always something to worry about. But again, I truly think that a fair amount of it is a waste of time. So it's not worth it for me, and certainly not worth it for anyone else. But yeah. So anyway, try to make these often, because I do think they're good for me, and I think that the largest value of this, at least in my view, is the backlog of sorts, right? The way this functions as a way for me to analyze prior psyche of myself, and to understand what kind of headspace I was in at a certain time. So the timestamp of these videos are pretty important, and I suppose I could make one once a month, but I often think there's more going through my head than one thought, one unique thought every month. At least I would hope so. So that's why I like to keep somewhat of a regular cadence with these, and not lose too much of it. But anyway, so I'll try and be regular about these, and I also I think I like playing Minecraft, and I don't care if it's not an idea of work. I suppose it's something else that is obnoxious to me, is this. And it's obnoxious to me not because it is a norm, but it's because I obey it so frequently, right? It takes up so much real estate, so to speak, in my head, and it's the idea of work, right? It's I think people in today's day and age find most, if not all, of their, well, I mean, I suppose not all of them, but a lot of them find a lot of satisfaction in their work, and I've never been someone who does that, and so I have tried to find and manufacture different quote-unquote work things and productive things that make me, at least extrinsically, be able to justify my, oh, I worked today kind of thing. But I truly don't care. I mean, I wish I would see less of a problem with myself if I spent the whole day playing Minecraft. But if I do that, even to myself, I go, wow, I was bummed today. All I did was play Minecraft. Which is not the, I would like that to not be the case. So I don't really know what, I think there's a lot more psychology that goes into that. And I think a lot of people might disagree and say that you need to be doing something productive for society or something like that. But I truly don't. I mean, again, no offense to people who are deeply invested in society. I don't really care about a lot of what goes on. I think a lot of it is really, really stupid. And if we judge society's problems by what is on the news and what are, quote unquote, the problems of the day, their problems are pretty damn stupid too, right? I mean, because we compare the individual problems and their stupidity to to how well an individual's doing. We can also look at society at large and decide approximately, how well things are going. And I see a lot of stupid problems, more than I see, justifiable ones, even the ones that aren't a complete waste. And part of that is just incentivize me to, I suppose, escape a lot of the public sphere. I am actively trying to do as little consumption of any kind as possible, because I think it's all kind of a waste of time. Not in a waste of time in the sense that I could be working or doing something productive with it. I just know that it is my own well-being, even selfishly or not selfishly, is better spent doing anything else. So not only the futility of whatever it is the hell people are talking about, it often is nothing you have any control over, but is often irrelevant to anything I have to do or would even have influence over. So even if I was able to make some kind of difference on something, reading about 10 other issues it's not going to speed up the process of me doing anything else, right? I can't work faster, even in society's eyes, where I need to be working on something all the time. I can't work any faster if I'm sitting here watching other stuff I need to work on, right? It creates this never-ending hustle loop where I feel like a shithead if I'm not running around hustling and for what, it's not really that. I don't care that much. A lot of what end up hustling for is useless anyway, so it's I'm not gonna spend my whole life hustling, for little to no ends, or for someone else's bottom line. It's just as stupid. So I don't know. I don't drink the Kool-Aid on that as much as other people might, and I don't look down upon people that do. You're not going to interest me by doing that. I can talk about it on a surface level, but I truly don't care, and I suppose that puts me in some kind of category about someone who doesn't care about XYZ, but I don't know. I truly think it's more of a distraction than anything. Again, this could just be a temporary philosophy of mine. Doesn't necessarily imply that I will forever not care. It might be worthwhile even for me at some point to go through a stage of, corporate, I'm not even sure what to call it, but of me really investing in a corporate future, because it provides some amenities that are quite nice, but I think part of what I'm trying to do is just to not care about these amenities in the first place, right? So the fact that I could get this nice car, this nice house, or this nice, those might be cool. Obviously can't discount the fact that they are nice, right? It'd be nice to have a better computer, or just the newest monitor, or I don't even know, a massage every Tuesday or something. And yeah, these amenities are appealing, but I'm certainly not going to sacrifice any bit of my my own autonomy or my own dignity for that. And in some sense, I think a lot of what this corporate ejaculate is sacrificing a lot of your dignity for something that isn't even really that a blissful ignorance of wouldn't be the end of the world. So I'm fine with that. Something else that this is again kind of on the news of I don't know if politics is the right word, but people's viewpoints of something of viewpoints on viewpoints, right? There's a sentiment about I'm tolerant of everybody, right? I'm always tolerant, right? I'm very tolerant of everyone, and I want to respect all their viewpoints, which is good. I think that sounds like a noble cause. So kudos to you. However, I often find that people who claim of tolerance as their MO, often their tolerance has walls, right? You can find them quite quickly, right? And I've perhaps a sentiment that I've heard around this is, well, I'm tolerant only of people who are also tolerant. Okay, it's okay. So you're tolerant of other tolerant people, right? So in that line of logic, let's suppose you're a tolerant person, right? You just want to respect everybody and their viewpoints, and you just want to be civilized and yada yada yada. Okay, so let's suppose that there is this devout Christian, for some who's fundamentalist or old Roman Catholic, whatever. I don't even know what it is. Let's just say they don't like homosexuals for whatever reason. That's their viewpoint, right? And a true tolerant person would say, you know what? Okay, totally fine. I respect it. Again, I don't agree, but you know what? It's fine. It's tolerant. I respect it. You have a right to hold your opinion, right? I can try to talk you out of the Bible or whatever it is that you're justifying this with, but ultimately, like a true tolerant person would say, okay, that's okay, fine. Like this person is allowed to believe that. But then the tolerant people might be like, well, hey, why not? They're just like us. They're the same. That's no different. And he's like, well, okay, well, I don't like them. Like I'm not tolerant of the people, these fundamentalist Christians who hate gay people. It's like, okay, well then you're now introducing intolerance to your equation. Okay, so now you are, you're only tolerant to other tolerant people, but you yourself are no longer tolerant because you don't tolerate someone else who has an intolerance for something, right? And this same thing extends to really any kind of religious barring of something of some sort. Somebody has a strange to you, but to them it's natural, a strange belief on some ideology they disagree with, and to you that's not okay because you want everyone to be accepted, right? But wanting everyone to accept everything about everyone is just not only just a not going to happen, I suppose, but it is also just it creates a logical fallacy at step zero because you immediately then become intolerant of people who are intolerant. Therefore, you are no longer tolerant. So it's I don't know. I just think it's funny that the tolerance of intolerance is its own creates its own host of problems that people are oblivious to some extent. Come on down here. What are you guys doing? So I don't know. I think tolerance of intolerant people is just a funny idea. So I suppose if you truly are tolerant, you have to accept the extremist Christian, as well as the whoever that you don't like or whoever is, someone you disagree with. You have to fight for their right to say something, right? So, same with like a free speech argument, right? I've talked about the importance of free speech, but free speech is only you can't defend only free speech that not even that you like, but that you'll tolerate, right? You can't say, well, you cannot say that. And he goes, well, I'll defend if it's something that I think is okay. It's like, okay, well, then you're introducing a intolerance to the right of free speech. And so in my view, if someone who is truly an advocate of free speech would defend the right of would go to war to metaphorically. Would go to war metaphorically to defend the right of somebody that they did not agree with. So again, to put this in extremist terms, some dude who loved saying the N-word, okay, that's all he did all day was just run around saying the N-word. You'd have to be willing to battle and to fight for his right to say that. As much as you don't like it, as much as that is against your moral. It's like, well, I'm not. It's against my moral code. So I don't want to defend that. It's like, well, defending the right itself is the action that that you're taking as a supporter of free speech. So it's not, you don't get to choose whether or not it's something that you agree with. So the tolerance has to be, you have to be equally tolerant of Nazis as you are of regular, normal people who don't have any weird beliefs, right? So you have to accept all of them, right? Furries, everybody fits into this category. So I know it's strange. Something else I've noticed that is really frustrating to me, just about this romanticized consumerist bubble that we tend to exist in, and I try as an aspiring autonomous person to exert control over areas of my life that I think I have control over, and to again try to seize what control I have, right, over my individuality, over my circumstance, over my ability to I like to control what I can eat and what I can do in a day and what I theoretically could wear and say, and kind of have autonomy and control over those things. And I've come to a realization now that it, for some time I thought that was more of a ubiquitous idea, right? Everybody wanted the right to control their opinions and right to control their behavior and control their thoughts and control the food and control the things they say, control everything, right? At least to the extent they can. Obviously, a certain amount is incontrollable. So I've got sticky keys. I don't know why sticky keys is on. But I've realized that some people, either it's in a cycle of delusion. They just don't want control of any kind, right? I talk to them in a way that would give them control over that. That maybe they even talk about wanting control, but it's clear through their actions that they're either, again, incapable of doing so, or they're deluded into thinking they don't need it, or they have it already, but they don't want control. They enjoy being told exactly what to do all the time, with no exceptions of anything. And it's not even that they enjoy that happily. They do so with littered with complaints and with oh, damn this thing. Oh, if this was my way, I'd be doing it this. I'd be doing X, Y, Z. But so they would complain and about their lack of control, and then when given an opportunity to exert authority, they go, I'm all right. I don't need that. It's like, what? You were just complaining endlessly about the lack of control you have in your, and now it's that much, and you're done. You're willing to sacrifice it for nothing, and you'll go back to comfort in an instant without even trying to exercise your autonomy. But I don't know. It's frustrating to me, at least, to as someone who is an advocate of people controlling their actions and beliefs and thoughts and feelings and words and expressions in any kind of way. I believe that's a part of the human experience. People that just are apathetic to wanting to do any of that, right? So they're not even defendants of not even of human rights, but of expression of humankind in any way. Because it's not necessarily that the environment has imposed limitations on us. I think naturally, biologically, we're quite free in many senses, right? I think evolution in itself is a very freeing, free concept. Right? I think, in the sense that animals reproduce by just mutating. They reproduce and they mutate randomly, and then they just kind of do random stuff. They might eat, maybe they don't eat. The ones that don't eat don't survive, right? But you're given a lot of there's not incredibly strict guidelines on how one can evolve, or one can, you can eat a whole bunch of stuff. It's not like you have to eat one thing, right? It's not like biologically we're limited to eat one variety of shrub. We can eat all kinds of stuff, right? And we do. But we we thwart our own ability to do things, and then even when given an opportunity not to, we decide that it's either it's not worth the effort, and maybe that's part of it. Is just that the effort part is too daunting, or it's just annoying. You'd rather just do nothing. I realize it was always easier to do nothing than it is to do something, and I've tried to overcome this in the small scale at which I do have influence over myself, but I try to opt on the side of doing anything, even if it's the wrong thing. I'd rather do something and learn the hard way than to not do anything. It's also another extension of that, which is with like advice. People give advice all the time, and that's totally fine. But I think part of what I've fallen victim to is this this endless advice trap almost, where you get conflicting advice from people who don't know your situation, and they just can say what all these, whatever it is that they want to say and what their experience was, and maybe a lot of it's good, maybe a lot of it's not, but you just get caught up in a cycle of trying to decide what is, the best advice, and and in reality it's all bad advice. So the best advice is to do something, and then you figure it out for yourself, because ultimately I think the amount of bias that goes into even the analysis of results is enough to sway bias in a direction that would nullify any amount of time spent deliberating on advice. So I tend to just not really take advice to the or at least hold advice to the same high standard I once did, in the sense that everyone's got these very important things to say, and everyone's always trying to give me great advice, and they know my situation, intimately. They don't. They're just giving, maybe they're giving boilerplate advice. Maybe they're trying to give good advice, but they lack the context-dependent knowledge to be effective, or they just have had maybe mirror opposite experiences to you, and then now their advice is kind of contrary to what you'd actually need, because they're not in your situation. They never went through this. They don't know, right? And ultimately, I think our situations are genuinely unique enough to not to not warrant these repeat advice is generally wrong. So I don't know. It's an interesting thought. It is kind of annoying, people running around swearing by this advice or that advice. And I saw an interesting, and it kind of reminded me of me holding the carrots. I was an interesting article. It's not an article. I don't even read articles. It was a blog by this guy, and he talked about the carrot problem. And it is related to the survivorship bias that I've kind of leaned on and beaten down endlessly, especially over these last few episodes. But the carrot problem was that, I don't even know what the specific militaries were, but you could look it up if you wanted. I'm just going to butcher it. I'll give you the layman's explanation because I don't care. This military developed some new technology. I think the acronym was actually AI, but it wasn't artificial intelligence. It was something else. So this military developed this new technology that allowed them to get much more accurate in terms of their missile shooting or something like that. I don't really know exactly what it was. But anyway, the competitors, or another military, saw it and was like, "Hey, how'd you guys get so accurate? It's pretty impressive." And they go, and they didn't want to spill the beans on what they had been doing and working on. So they go, "Oh well, our pilots have been eating all kinds of carrots, and the carrots improve their eyesight. Now they can see better." And of course, they had insider information. It had nothing to do with carrots. They were just saying that to give them an explanation that something that they could do, I suppose, to try and emulate the results. But no matter how many carrots they ate, they would be hopeless at trying to replicate their information. And I see the same thing happen a lot, right? It's people who have maybe, if you have insider information, or even if you just don't have the full picture, but yet you need some kind of forward-facing response. You just say, "Oh, well, do this, and it'll work." And knowing full well that is not, eating carrots was not why that this military was having success all of a sudden. It was, they had better technology. It was it was nothing to do with carrots. But telling them that it was carrots was enough to get them to be, "Oh, everyone's got to eat carrots. All these pilots got to be eating carrots." And it's funny because I'm sure the other military was laughing to himself, thinking, to themselves, thinking like, what a bunch of idiots, thinking they're gonna nothing to do with carrots, and they're over here shoveling carrots in their face. It's funny a little bit, but at the same time, it's emblematic of our desire to want to emulate, success and to copy and to know that we have the antidote, when in reality we're given wrong information. So I see this with I think especially with investment tips and things like that, or success and the financial market. If you just do this, to be successful. It's like, well, you could be, if you work at Wall Street and you're an insider, and you inside trade your way to have huge returns, you got to come up with some kind of carrot excuse to tell people why it is that you got these ridiculous returns. And of course, you could give them all the advice in the world, but it's all bogus. The real answer is that you had inside information the whole time. So it had nothing to do with you eating carrots, right? It had to do with you being an insider and knowing the inside scoop. So I don't know. The carrot problem is interesting to me. It's funny that it's similar to survivorship bias in the sense, but it's more so on the side of they have to justify how they did it some way, so they just come up with, just eat some carrots and you'll have better eyesight. It's kind of a funny trope. Something else I've been thinking about, and I guess this is just more of general thoughts on stuff that I think about a lot, is kind of this ideal state of the human condition. Thinking about human evolution and the human biology, and I suppose biology's own purpose, its only purpose, is just to survive and to reproduce. So a real cop-out answer to the ideal state of the human condition would just be to, we'll just, reproduce as many times as you can, right? And I suppose biologically that is really our only goal, is just to, so I mean, and this is an interesting way to think about it, that I heard about was if you think about the success of a, let's say of just even a crop, right? So a success of wheat or a success of corn. We've obviously cultivated these in a way that allows us to grow them at ridiculous rates. We've modified their genetics, and they grow at these absurd rates with this big sweet fruit or whatever. Biologically, these are some of the more successful than us, even, right? There are more years of corn maybe than humans. So biologically speaking, if we look at it from that lens, this is more successful than we could have ever imagined. Now, granted, they're not doing it on their own terms. They're obviously, more or less kind of slaves in some sense to us. But again, if we look at it from that purely biological lens, this is as successful as it gets, right? These monkey humans are dependent on us and growing us like crazy. So, we win. Good for us. Same with cows, right? You're telling me we couldn't just kill all the cows immediately and they'd be done? We'd have dominated them as a species. But no, we've now become dependent on them, but we cultivate them, right? We purposely grow them to slaughter and eat them. But biologically, there's more cows now than there have ever been. And I mean, I'm not sure if it's day by day or if it's gone down the last couple of years because of the whole vegan thing. I'm not really sure, but regardless, the cows would have never reached the levels that they have because of us. And yet, from a biological perspective alone, these are very, very successful species. Much more so than T-Rexes and all the other dominant species of their time that have been lost to history. Cows are still around, right? Now, and again, granted, the difference is that they have no control, right? If the cows wanted to have an uprising against the humans, they can do nothing, right? They can't even reason. Can't use complex reasoning. They don't have any weapons. They have no plan. They have no communication. I think that's really what separates us. They can't really communicate effectively with one another. So even if all the cows were collectively to overrun their farmers, they couldn't coordinate, right? Because they don't have a language, at least a language that is complex enough for them to use to their advantage, right? Which of course us humans we do. But again, I think the important part or the interesting part of that is if we only look at things through this biological lens, we get this very warped view of what humans should do. So again, if we look at it from that perspective, we should just be reproducing, and that should be it. There should be nothing else. But surely, because of our ability to our think, the cognitive revolution, our ability to communicate effectively in this vast society we've created upon the different structures of society. There's probably a lot more to life than, or at least to modern life, than to just reproduce, right? So that's kind of what I'm getting at with, I say, what the ideal state of the human condition is, right? There's some extent of participation in society that might be a part of the human condition. There's some element of socialization that's part of it, that has even has been a result of biology. I think we've started, I'm not even sure how long ago it was, but 80,000 years ago or so. Whenever we started grouping up together, right, that was when we really increased our power level a lot. But the socialization part is not only a biological piece of our success, but also a necessary component of our modern life. I think it'd be hard to have an argument that that a social life of some kind is not a component of modernly successful life in some sense, or even just a modern piece of the human condition, right? And I think I'm using that term more than I should, perhaps, but yeah, I'm not sure what the ideal state of affairs looks like for humans and for me. What part of this involves the collection of money, right? Or the ability to money as the ability to express one's thoughts, beliefs, opinions, actions in the greater scope of things, ultimately. Because if someone with no money or no money in our modern society has no ability to do anything that is impactful at scale, right? I think it can be valuable to individuals, but contributing at large without some amount of political influence of some kind, which is generally bought by money, is not something that I can do. And I don't really care about that much. But I suppose having enough to socialize responsibly and effectively would be the minimum. I'm not sure if I even want to think about this right now. I don't really know. I haven't really thought about that enough to have formed a real opinion. So I don't know. But anyway, I suppose something else that is on the topic. I'll come back to that later. I think I don't think I've formed enough of an opinion to on that or at least thought about it enough. I don't think an opinion is the right word. I don't think forming an opinion is a critical part of that. I think more so it's just I need to think about what I'm saying, right? Because I feel like I'm just kind of talking out of my ass, which is fine. That's the MO of this. So part of this is me talking out of my ass. But yeah, I need to have more of a handle on what the fuck my ass is talking about. Is everything, this is totally different, is everything a means to some kind of end, right? And I think I noticed this a lot in our productivity-centric ideas. We all try to find ways to be more productive, right? And people have labeled productivity as on a higher level than, or a higher amount of importance than like health, which is hysterical because those are so directly tied to one another. So if you're unhealthy, you are inherently less productive, at least less productive than you could be, right? You could be more productive if you were healthier. But regardless, this productivity thing, I think the funniest symptom of this, or the funniest example, not really a symptom, would be like meditating for the benefit of being productive. And granted, I'm guilty of this myself. I've been meditating now for meditating is kind of a loose word. I think we've lost what it meant to the Buddhists back in the day. But our own version of meditation, to me, it's just laying still for 10 minutes every day. But meditation for the sake of, you can get more work done if you meditate and relax and lower your heart rate. It's all this means to an end of some kind, right? In the sense that you're doing that so that you can be relaxed and have more work, and you go on vacation such that you are, you can go back to work or something. Is it possible to do something without some kind of means to an end, right? You obviously eat to survive, and that's very normal. And that's, again, there's nothing wrong with eating to survive. And maybe you walk to get exercise, and you work to get money, and you use money to get something else. But is there a activity or something that is independent of any end goal? And so if you take maybe this series, whatever you want to call it, as an example, right? The purpose of this is also to an end of some kind, right? I can create an end. I can create a meaning for this end relatively easily, saying that, okay, maybe the reason I do this is so that I have less on my mind to do other work stuff, or if I want an outlet for me to create something. But it's very difficult, I think, especially if you look at the ends of certain things, meaning like the reason you do something as absolutely. It becomes very difficult to do something without some kind of ends involved. And I think, the end the end goal being doing something with no ends would be what I'm going for. I don't really know what I'm talking about right now either. I can't struggling to articulate what it is that I'm talking about. I feel like I'm just talking out of my ass, so I'm gonna table this and come back to another time. It's probably the wrong time of day to be recording one of these. I don't feel super on top of what I'm talking about. So it can get I can get a little off if I'm not in the right frame of mind to do these. But whatever, life goes on. So anyway, yes. Let me think about something else. I talked a little bit about biological, I guess, freedom, right? We have biology enables a certain amount of freedom, right? Biology in and of itself is a freeing thing, right? Our biologies allow us to freely explore all kinds of stuff, right? Biology isn't a limiting thing. It generally enables us instead of limits us in whatever that means to you. And so we have no, and again, this is where it can kind of get a little dicey. We have no inherent human rights biologically. I think we have just as many human rights as sheep would have to their own rights, right? Or, I don't know, any other animal, dolphins or something have just as much to their rights. And now, again, if you say that, dolphin rights are different than human rights, then you're establishing that there's a hierarchy, right? Okay, that human rights are somehow more important than dolphin rights, which, again, I think it's very easy to see why that might be the case, because we're human and not dolphins. But at the same time, again, establishing that a difference in a hierarchy is quite natural, especially for cognitively enabled biological species like us, who can communicate and talk and do things that require our brains in ways that other animals cannot do. So they should be envious of us, and we should be better. But I think we have no human rights biologically, right? So I think if we did have biological human rights, we wouldn't need to eat or do anything. And I realize this is a foreign idea, because it's like, everything's got to eat. That's because nothing necessarily has a right to live. We've decided collectively as species that communicate that each person deserves some amount of ability to survive. Right? They don't sew your mouth shut or something, or they don't. Right? I think if you didn't have a biological right to life of some kind, you would just either would have never lived, or would have no ability to live. Right? So because we have some ability to live, we should therefore have some kind of right. I think that was the logic we went into generating some kind of human rights. But human rights, I think it's worth noting at least that in and of itself is a construct of our imagination. Is kind of a very reductive word. It might sound like I'm being some kind of extremist, but it is technically, I guess, our imagination that we've generated these human rights as inalienable and whatever. And then on top of that, we've generated these other laws and governance that people tend to disagree more over. I think very few people, realistically subscribe to this to a belief where there's no human rights, right? They don't exist, or they shouldn't exist, or whatever. Most everyone has some, is in some form of agreement that okay, everyone should have some right to exist. Now that we, we're capable of having emotions and things that control our ability to help other people. So everyone should get at least some kind of a chance to exist in some sense. The laws are what we have maybe more beef about. Not everyone agrees on certain laws. Certain countries have, they disagree with other countries on their laws. But regardless, there's a lot of agreement on laws. People, are law-abiding citizens because they agree that these laws seem reasonable and fair. I can exist under them, and even in I guess the part that is funny. Even if they don't agree with them, they have no choice, right? I suppose unless you were to somehow be able to create your own society where you have no laws, that you are thus beholden. You're beholden to laws somewhere. You have to be, right? And these laws are again on an implementation on top of our acknowledgement of human rights, right? So we acknowledge that humans have a right to live, whatever that means, and now we acknowledge that these laws are how we enforce these human rights, right? We enforce the abilities for people to operate in a society with, based off of, again, they're not like one-to-one. It's not like every law is geared towards us defending the human rights, but generally what it is to create a system as such that supports and allows for us to protect certain human rights. And people, you can make arguments all day that this is a violation of human rights, and yada yada yada. You can go all day about that, but that's not the point. The philosophical purpose of laws is to implement a level of human rights on top of our abstraction on what human rights are. So it allows us to have more cut and dry activities and things that we can or can't do that we have deemed lawful or not lawful, which is what laws are. But it's inherently limiting in that sense. So biologically, we're already limited in the sense that we have to feed ourselves and eat and do certain things to allow us to survive, and that seems to be something we've readily accepted. And then I think society, as we've gotten more complex, has now layered on certain other limitations on what we're able to do and explore, and to we're kind of going at odds with biology, because I said biology inherently enables us, allows us to try and do new things, right? I think even other species have they do weird stuff. Like animals do weird stuff. They're allowed to explore. That's kind of the nature of giving biological life some amount of autonomy beyond just eating and reproducing. But as we layer on we've established our kind of common human rights among many with some disagreement, and then laws on top of that more people disagree with, but we still have you have to exist by some laws, right? You can't just, there's still even international law that applies in some sense, but we're layering on different things that are inherently limiting to our quote unquote freedom, what that means. And the way I've defined that as an abstract lack of influence, or the absence of influence of some kind. So the more our behavior is influenced by something, it could be an external thing, or it could be anything, and influence is very loosely defined there. Our freedom in that sense is lowered. So the more, I suppose, we add to these laws and these abstractions and things, the more we try to create them, we inherently limit our again, quote unquote freedom, whatever that means. And this isn't necessarily a bad thing, but I think naturally us humans, because we are again, I said a while ago, and I stand by it, that we are naturally curious. That is kind of one of our if there's a human right that I stand by, it's that we are curious beyond a doubt. We try to answer questions, we ask questions, and we explore whatever that might mean, right? That means good things to some people, bad things to others, but we are curious. And in some sense that enables itself to be a desire for some kind of independence, right? A freedom from this abstraction of lack of freedom from laws and other things that do that. And I think that's where you get a lot of you don't get criminal behavior by people just waking up deciding that, oh, I'm going to be bad today. It's like, well, that's not how people operate. I want to do something bad. And not a lot of people do that, but I think they just go, well, this is either something I disagree with or something that I'd like to challenge, or not even that. It's just maybe this is I want to. Why is this the way that it is? Like, what we've structured it this way, but I want to at least kind of question this, even just to affirm its legitimacy, right? We kind of, in the sense that I want to double check this to make sure that this makes sense. And again, I'm not saying we get criminals because they're curious. So I wonder what would happen if I robbed this bank. That's not what I'm saying either. I think just a lot of it is humans are naturally curious. We naturally desire to be free in whatever sense that might mean. And especially as we add more and more kind of laws and regulations to things, people have more and more of a desire to explore and to be free. And again, that means doing stuff that is now illegal, right? And again, there are things that are illegal now that were legal for a long time. So because only more and more things are becoming illegal, that's going to give more and more people they're going to act on that natural curiosity to be to do illegal things, which again, they're illegal, but they are maybe they weren't at one point, or they because at one point, like we say cannibalism is obviously illegal, but there's points in human history where they openly ate other humans, right? Same with like murder. They would sacrifice people, right? Human sacrifice was like a huge component, like a huge religious and social component of existing. You'd go to the bonfire at whatever village it is. I don't even know what it is. And then you'd burn somebody, right? Or you'd eat somebody. And like obviously in today's day and age, you'd be a maniac to do any of that. But at one point, that was a legal and accepted thing to do. And we have, of course, we've moved past that, but I think people think in absolute terms, such that okay, well, if it's illegal now, it must always have been wrong or always been. No, it's like there are probably things now that we'll I guess look back on and think that we were ridiculous for ever doing, but that's I don't know, that's kind of the way things are. We did used to burn and eat people. It's just normal. That was part of it. All right, it made the crops grow bigger or something like that. I'm not sure. Either way, it's weird to think about. There's a lot more I want to kind of dissect with this. And I'm not going towards any real absolute conclusion here, other than things that I have stated before, and I'm just kind of trying to explore the implications of our biological predispositions, the limitations and the structure created by our social society, and then what to do about that. Because I think there's a lot of factors at play, and I don't really know what intersects where, and again, what we're supposed to be doing, or again, if it is nothing, but then what are we able to do, and why, and why are certain things not done certain ways. I'm not sure. There's just a lot to explore. It's an interesting concept. I think I was kind of all over the place today, but I certainly left a lot of thoughts unfinished. So anyway, hope you enjoyed, or if you even watched it, but I hope you enjoyed. I'll try to be more regular with these as I get into a new normal, I guess, or new routine of some kind. But I don't want to be too monotonous. Otherwise, I'll just kind of watch time go by instead of taking time with things. But anyway, hope you enjoyed. See you next time, and peace out.